Hi everybody and welcome to Deth Wizards. This time Zarasso and his Horde will assault a noble villa. Zarasso is ready for his next quest, and if you haven't done so already, check out the first episode about Zarasso and his Horde and Deth Wizards, where I explain the rules and Zarasso's powers. There will be a link in the description. Zarasso is a Stitcher, and after his last quest, he successfully raised a new Specter to his Horde. He still has a mummy, a ghoul, a zombie, and a skeleton archer as well. The zombie was destroyed in the last battle, but also raised afterwards. All in all, that gave Zarasso 4 experience points, and he has chosen to spend 3 of them on a new necromantic power. And that is Reanimate. And that enables him to, reanimate a destroyed minion during the battle. Hidden between the dark mountains and the dark forest is Zarasso's hovel lair. And even though Zarasso has caused havoc and destruction to the land of death, he's not that famous yet. His lair will only be assaulted on a roll of 10. So this time, he's lucky. No one has noticed the lair yet. So now Zarasso and his Horde can focus on the next quest, assault a noble villa. It's a mission with a rating of 8, so Zarasso has chosen to bring the mummy, the ghoul, the skeleton archer, and then the Specter instead of the zombie. He'll let the zombie rest for a while. And here in the upper right corner of the battlefield, we have the noble villa. And already there is a rating 3 wizard and a rating 2 rogue guarding the villa. But that's not all. We have to roll for a number of warriors as well. And there will be D3 plus 1. So 3 warriors will also appear guarding the villa. They will all be rating 2. But that's not all. Hidden on the first floor of the villa is an archer, and he will fire every hero turn towards Zarasso and his Horde. And the heroes will also activate first each turn. And that is because this mission will be played in advanced, so that will of course be more difficult, but there will also be greater reward. Here is an overview of the battlefield. We are ready to go. Zarasso will assault the noble villa. Let's go to round number 1. Zarasso will begin this mission with 19 necromantic power. 1 more than his last mission because he has learned a new power. But to begin with, the annoying archer will see which minions he can hit with his bow, and then he will attack. Zarasso has tried his best to keep the minions out of line of sight, but the archer can see the ghoul, and he will fire his arrows. You'll need a roll of 5 or 6 on a d6 to hit, so the ghoul is safe. The first hero to activate is the wizard, and he will roll a 2. That's fiery bolts. The wizard will attack the nearest 3 enemies it can see, but it cannot really see anybody from this position, so the wizard will move first. He'll take cover in this forest, and from this position he can target 2 minions. He can see and target the skeleton archer as well as the ghoul. Both the skeleton archer and the ghoul have rather low defenses of 3, so the wizard with an offense of 5 will fire his fiery bolts against the skeleton archer first. And there are 4 hits. But the skeleton is nothing but bones, so he will absorb 1 and only take 3. Next up, the ghoul. Ooh, it looks bad. The wizard will hit with all 5 attacks, and the ghoul will take 5 wounds. It has a durability of 10. Next up, the warrior closest to Zarasso and his minions. He rolls a 10, and that's normally very unpleasant, but he has no ranged attacks, so he will instead move twice. That will not take him to any of the minions or Zarasso himself, but he will be very close. Now, finally, Zarasso gets his turn, and he will begin with his aura of repair, and he will remove 2 wounds from the ghoul. Zarasso will also take the first activation himself. So he will begin with a move action that will take him behind this building, hopefully out of line of sight of the archer, and from this position he can see and target the warrior with negative bolt. That will cost him 3 necromantic powers. The warrior has a resist of 5, and Zarasso has 4 attack dice. And it looks good. He will equal or pass the resist of the warrior with 3 of his attack dice. So he can roll a damage d10 and a bonus damage d6. And yeah, once again, the negative bolt proves to be very effective. 12 damage to the warrior. Unfortunately, he has a durability of 16 because he is a rating 2 warrior, but that was a decent attack from Zarasso. Now Zarasso can activate up to 4 rating points of minions, and the skeleton archer is up first. He is worth 1 point. He will move to the corner of the building, and he can reach and shoot at the warrior here still standing in front of the noble villa. The skeleton will roll 3 offense dice versus a defense of 5, and there will be 2 hits. Decent shooting by the skeleton archer and 2 wounds to the warrior. Next up, the mummy will activate, and it will only move once. Zarasso will hold back the mummy for a while, so it will take a position here safe behind the building. Now it's the heroes again, and this warrior will roll a 7. It's a whirlwind strike, but again, he'll have to move first to be able to strike anybody. The warriors have no ranged attacks. They will have to get into close combat first. And that's, of course, the same for the third and final warrior. He will take a double move action. With 2 heroes activated, it's back to Zarasso and his Horde. So he will have to activate his last 2 minions, and he will begin with the ghoul. The ghoul has a movement of 7, and it's also able to claw its way all the way over to this warrior, and then it will attack. And the ghoul has an offense of 5 versus 5 in defense. And that's a great roll. 3 hits and 1 critical. That will be a total of 5, and that's enough to take down the first warrior. He already took a lot of damage from the negative bolt, and now the ghoul will claw the rest of his life out of him. He's down, and the ghoul will feast upon his body and soul as well. He will heal 6 durability. He is now completely healed. Great move. Now the Specter. He will pass through the walls and onto the first floor of this building, and from here he can target this warrior with his black bolt attack. He has a range of 10. It's defense 5, and the Specter has 5 offensive dice. 2 hits and 1 critical. That will give 4 additional wounds to the warrior. And when the Specter hits a hero that is already wounded, he will also slow him. Zarasso will now activate for the second time. And he will begin with his aura of repair. We'll just reroll that one. He will repair the skeleton archer for 3 wounds. All minions are now unharmed. It looks like Zarasso is in complete control. Now from this position, he will move slightly back, and he can still see the warrior here, and he can still target him with another negative bolt. He will target the resist of the warrior, and again roll 4 dice, hoping to get at least 1 and hopefully D3 hits. Oh yes, another great roll from Zarasso. He fires a powerful negative bolt against the warrior, and he will take 1d10 and 1d6 of damage. 11 it is this time. Still not enough to destroy the warrior, but a lot of damage. And while the warrior screams in rage, anger, and pain, the archer from the window will once again target any minion it can see. And this time it can draw line of sight to the ghoul, and it will hit this time. The ghoul will be hit by an arrow and take 1 damage. The archer can also see the skeleton, so another shot, but no hit. The final hero activation is the rogue, and it's a slice attack. Again, if there are no enemy within 1 inch, the rogue will move instead. With a movement of 7 inches, the rogue will get all the way up to this building. And that was the last hero to activate. So we'll have 1 more activation from Zarasso. For the 3rd time, he will begin with his aura of repair, and he'll take away the wound from the ghoul. And with rogues and warriors running towards him, he will step slightly back behind this tree. And then he will use another necromantic power, this time 5 points, and he will cast Grasping Tendrils. He'll roll 3 dice, first against the warrior, and there will be 1 success against the resist of 5, and the warrior will take D3 damage, and he will also be slowed. Grasping Tendrils can target up to 3 enemies, and Zarasso can also see the other warrior. So again, a roll with 3 dice, and this time 2 hits versus the resist of 5, and he will do 5 damage. Both warriors are still standing, but they are heavily wounded. Finally, the archer in the villa will fire again against the ghoul, and it's a hit. The ghoul will take damage. And the archer will also target the skeleton. And that's another hit. D3 damage, but only 1. The skeleton will absorb that. And finally, he can also see Zarasso. And he will not hit Zarasso. And that concludes this round. 1 warrior is eliminated, but the remaining 2 are still standing, and that is a problem, because if they get in close, they will do potentially a lot of damage. Then we also have a rogue nearby, but the wizard will activate first in the next round. Zarasso still has energy left in the beginning of round 2, but he will gain 3 more necromantic energy, and then the wizard will activate. And it's also a good time to show these add-on cards that you can buy or print, where you will get all the heroes, and you will also get the minions as well as the different layers. They are not needed to play the game at all, but they are useful to have. So let's check out the card and see what that is. Dispel Magic. The wizard and all heroes within 12 inches remove all conditions, and then all necromancers within 12 inches will lose 3 energy. Luckily, Zarasso is more than 12 inches away. Since there are no conditions in play at the moment, we'll continue to this warrior. He is closest to the ghoul, so he will activate and roll. And it's also a roll of 10. That's really unpleasant. That's a double strike. The worst you can get from a warrior. And now he is within range of Zarasso and his horde, so he will move to the closest minion. That will be the ghoul, and then he will strike. The ghoul has a defense of 3, and the warrior, yeah, he is rather dangerous when he gets up close. No less than 6 offense dice, and 4 of them will hit the ghoul. So 4 damage, but that's not all. Even though he moved, he will still be able to double strike, so he can attack again. And 6 dice again, oh my god. All of them will hit, and there's even one critical. I don't even need to count these hits. The ghoul will be shredded to pieces. This warrior really meant serious business. The archer will fire at Zarasso, but he will miss this time. That was the hero's activation. Now Zarasso and his horde will activate, and the first minion to do something is the Specter. First, a move action, and it will take cover behind the wall, and then it will fire a black bolt against the other warrior. 5 offense dice versus a defense of 5, only 2 hits. So this warrior will take 2 more damage. He will survive that, but being wounded already, the Spectre will slow him down. The Spectre is rating 3, so the Skeleton Archer can still activate its rating 1, and from this position he can target the hero here. The hero has a defense of 5, and the Skeleton Archer has 3 offense dice, and he will hit, and that is enough to penetrate the heart of this brave warrior. He is dead. Then it's Zarasso's turn to activate. First a move action, and from this position behind the house, Zarasso can draw line of sight to the warrior, the rogue, as well as the wizard. He will cast Grasping Tendrils once again. First against the warrior's resist of 5, and he will hit with all 3 dice. That's 3d3 damage, 1, 2, that's enough to bring down the warrior. Zarasso's spell has eliminated this warrior. He's down. He's no longer a threat. Grasping Tendrils is an expensive necromantic power, but it's worth it. And again, Zarasso will hit with all his offense dice against the resist of the rogue. The rogue has a resist of 4, so again, but not the best damage roll this time. 4 damage to the rogue. But I guess Zarasso most likely would like to hurt the wizard. The wizard has a very high resist of 9 and not 8, as the dice show here. But Zarasso will hit with 2 dice nonetheless, and a damage of 3. That will definitely not eliminate the wizard, but it's a good start. A very effective activation for Zarasso and his Grasping Tendril necromantic power. The archer in the house will fire again. This time the Spectre is in line of sight, but he will not hit. Now let's see what the rogue will do. It's a slice attack. The rogue will attack the enemy with the lowest durability within 1 inch. There are no enemies within 1 inch. Instead, the rogue will move, and with a high movement of 7, the rogue will be able to reach the Skeleton Archer, and only a defense of 3, and the rogue has a very high offense of 8 dice. Ooh, that hurts. Several critical hits, and a total of 9 damage. Even though the skeleton will absorb 1, he will be reduced to a sad pile of bones. What an attack by the rogue. Zarasso has now lost his second minion. The Skeleton Archer was reduced to dust, but the mummy is still very much alive. Or, well, no, it's undead. But he will attack the rogue with a defense of 4, and the mummy has an offense of 7. And that is also a very, very powerful attack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wounds. The rogue was already wounded, but it still has 1 durability left, and it's also cursed. The special ability of the mummy is Cursed Touch. So when the rogue activates the next time, he will lose 1 damage. That will actually kill him. Let's see if he's alive long enough to kill himself. Zarasso will activate now, and he has 6 energy left. It could be a good time to fire a negative ball at the wizard, but instead he will take care of his minions. He will spend all 6 energy on the Reanimate Necromantic Power, and he will raise the ghoul once again. As the caring necromancer he is, the ghoul is back. And it's not only back, it's also hungry for revenge. Even though it's just reanimated, it can activate already so an attack on the rogue with defense of 4. And I'm not going to say any more. The ghoul will feast upon the rogue, and the rogue is history. That was really a great ghoul comeback. He was destroyed, and then he was reanimated and took his revenge out on the rogue. Now the wizard and the archer in the window are the only heroes left. Let's go to the 3rd round. Zarasso is completely drained of necromantic energy, but he will get 3 energy back here in the beginning of the 3rd round. The archer can still see the Specter, but he will not hit, and he can also see the mummy now. Let's see if he can target, and yeah, that's a hit. The mummy will take 2 damage from the archer's arrows. So that leaves the wizard as the only one remaining to end the terror of Zarasso. And he rolls a 6. So he will use his fireball. He will make an attack against the nearest enemy it can see, targeting resist instead of defense. And if there are other models within 3 inches, they will suffer damage as well. So he can see and target the Specter. 5 offense dice versus the resist of 5 of the Specter. And the Specter will take 4 damage from the wizard's attack. The Specter has a durability of 8, so it's definitely hurt now. Luckily, Zarasso is nearby, so he will move out in the open here to be close enough to use his aura of repair. He will help the Specter by curing his soul. He will remove 2 damage. And then he will spend his last 3 energy on a negative bolt, and he will fire at the wizard. And again, with a resist of 9, there is definitely no guarantee for success. 4 dice, the negative bolt will be fired, and there will be 1 good die here. So only 1d10 of damage. Well, could it be enough to take out the wizard? The wizard has 11 durability. No, that's not enough. It's a very low roll. He will take damage, of course, but nowhere near enough to end him. Now the ghoul will move. There are no further heroes, so Zarasso and his minions will be able to move almost just as they like. So the ghoul will make a double move action. He will be close to the wizard. With no heroes left, the Specter will fly towards the wizard, and he will attack him with his black bolt. The bolt will target the wizard's defense instead of resist, but still he has 6, and he will gain an additional defense because he is in cover behind the tree. But the Specter will hit him with a critical roll, and he will also hit with his remaining attack dice. That will be enough to bring down the final hero. The wizard fought bravely, but he will go down in the end, and the archer in the window will disappear. So, The goal of this mission, the assault on the noble villa, is a success. Zarasso will burn down this villa to the ground. He will spread his terror, and he will continue to do so with his minions. The name Zarasso will now be whispered in even the most remote and darkest corners of Deth. But it also was a victory with a price. He lost his skeleton archer and almost the ghoul as well. But let's see if Zarasso can raise the skeleton archer. He still has a +1 because of his lair. This is his second story, and a roll of 3 that's rather bad. That will cost the skeleton 1 point of something. So -1 to one of the stats. He is back, but he's just not as good as before. Now is also the chance to raise new undead for the Horde, and Zarasso, even though he's a Stitcher, has a taste of the spiritual undead, so he will try to raise a ghost, and it's a rating 3 undead. That will be tricky. He will need a roll of 4 or more to bring the ghost to life, and he is successful. Zarasso will raise a new minion to add his horde. A ghost will appear out of nowhere and join the ranks. At this point I realized I made 2 mistakes in this battle report. The archer in the window should not have fired more than once each turn instead of once each activation of the heroes. The other thing is that the wizard should have resisted the black bolt with his magic shielding. In the end, he would most likely have been alive just shortly into the 4th round. As a result of that, I will not give Zarasso experience points for the victory within 3 rounds. So he will gain 4 experience points from this battle. 1 because he completed the mission, 1 because he had more than 4 ratings worth of minions at the end of the battle, and 2 experience because this mission was played in advanced mode. Another reward from this mission is that Zarasso can choose one of these impedimentas for his lair, and he will choose the library. That will be a useful addition to his lair, and then he will be able to choose another impedimenta as well, because he now has completed 2 story missions, and he will choose the research laboratory. So Zarasso will be able to learn new necromantic powers with less XP, and he will be able to raise new and exciting undead. His hovel lair is not a tower yet though, but 1 more impedimenta, and it will be. Thanks a lot for watching this battle report. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you will join me for future bad rips.